Hey guys, welcome to another episode. I am Marshall here at Garage Time TV, and today we are not in the garage. As you can tell, we're actually inside the house. I'm at the dining table. Don't tell the wife. She'll be very mad at me. But it is really, really hot in the garage right now. So I've got the door open, I've got the fans blowing all that hot air out. It's still a little bit daylight, but it is cooking in there. And so I thought it'd be a good time to come into the house. Now, after work today, I did go by a local yard that had a bunch of old Volkswagens. And this here on the table in front of me is actually the main thing I was going for, and happened to pick up a few extra pieces as well. And I've got their card, small locally owned place, highly recommended, so make sure you guys check them out. It's called Pinemont Auto Salvage here in Houston. This is where I picked it up. They had all sorts of buses and bugs and Carmen Gias and squarebacks and all sorts of old Volkswagens, so I'll make sure to put their information down in the description down below. They are willing to ship some small stuff, you know, something like this, maybe not, but that's, you know, up to them. But super, super nice, locally owned, small family shop. The guy's been doing it for over 35 years, collecting all these cars, and by this point I should have posted an Instagram picture, and if I did not, shame on me. But if you don't follow me on Instagram and Facebook, shame on you. So make sure you guys do that. Follow me on social media for all this behind the scenes pictures and all that kind of good stuff. But anyway, their info will be down in the description down below. Now this was a main piece that I was going for, and I saw it on Facebook Marketplace, and they had it posted for $200. And I have never seen anything like this when it comes to air conditioning in a bus. Typically you'll see it above the driver and facing into the back. I'll post a picture of what that kind of looks like right here for you. So you can see how this is just a little different. This actually mounts under the dash, and so it was sold as is, untested, no guarantees, anything like that. But what drew me to it is that all the wiring looks to be here. It's still plugged in. It's got the relay on the back. It's got the controls. It's got all the vents. Some of the fins are missing from the vents, but I think that's something we could eventually replace. And all the screws are the same and all look the same age, which tells me that nobody's really been digging into this. So I'm under the impression that it probably works. There is a little radiator thing. I think it's like a condenser, I think is what you call it, or something like that. Evaporator, evaporator? I don't know. You AC people tell me what it is. But it's actually underneath this here. So there's a couple things we need to do. One is test it to see if the fans will blow, which would be really nice if they did. And then we'll start seeing like what the controls do, if that works. We have our multimeter, we have our jump pack for like the simple 12 volts, and we'll start testing out things and following wires back to where they go. And it looks like it's even got some mount brackets on it here, and the drip, you know, tubes where all the condensation drips out the bottom. And it looks like there's some tags on it too, and it says Volkswagen, but it's made in the USA. So let me get you guys off the stand. I'll get you guys a closer look. We'll kind of walk around this thing and then we'll start digging in. So this is the front of the unit, and these fins all are there. These are missing a little center controller to turn them all, but at least they articulate a little bit, I guess. The point is it just blows cold air, hopefully. There we go. We can turn it by hand if we have to. Maybe we'll have to get those out and clean that. Maybe it fell back in there. I don't know. We'll have to look. This one looks like it's mostly there. It looks like it kind of jumped the little teeth that it rides on there, so that might be an easy fix. Articulates a little bit. And this one's missing a couple fins in the middle there, and you can see right through it. And we've got our temp switch off. It sounds like there's a click. And all the way up to the max cold. Great. And our fan max off. Okay, a little faded on the white, but that's all right. So the front's pretty simple. You can see it's got a wraparound for our handbrake there, which is great. All the mechanisms will fit right through that, and around our steering as well. Do you have to be so noisy? Anyway, so you can see the cutout there. There's a lot of fittings on top here, here on the back. There's one here, back there's one here, and I think there's, no, that's it. So there's those there. but we can see the little radiator core in there, so we might have to take that off and make sure there's no nests built into that. But we've got the bracketry, come around the back side. It's all solid. It looks like we've got a relay. All the wires come out of our control, so I'm sure some of these wires come around and out of here. Looks like we got a little control board here on the back for what stuff does. I don't know, but I like the simplicity of the colors, which is nice. And then where our lines fit in, it looks like power to our fans and a ground. And our fans, these are the drips on both sides. I guess there's 2 of them. And this is what I was looking at, was this here. It says Cool Volkswagen Products Corporation, serial number made in the USA. So if you know anything about that, drop it in the comments down below if you guys know anything about what that means, or if it was a dealer add-on or aftermarket or something like that. But it does look like we need to do some cleaning in here. I don't think that's supposed to be that loose, but I'm sure the little material that's supposed to take up that gap is faded away over time. So I think the next thing to do is going to be hook up power probably to here with a ground and see if we can get this to blow some wind out of it. I see some more relays in here. Camera may not pick it up, but there's a little relay right there with 3 wires. I guess it's a relay or a switch. Probably a switch for the front. And this, not so much. Looks like something was supposed to be there. Anyway, let's start hooking up some power, multimeter, and see if we can get this thing to blow. So we've got our jump pack here, and it's charged. It's just simple 12 volts, just to test some stuff out. So we've got that red lead on the back disconnected. Maybe you can see that. And we've got our black attached to that brown wire, and brown is notoriously ground on the Volkswagen. So I've got that, and we're going to put the power to this, and we're going to see if we can get these fans to turn. Those have definitely sounded better in their past life, I'm sure. It also doesn't help that they're full of garbage, and this one over here has got a dirt dauber built on it, and being loose in the housing from that, center armature thing bouncing around, I'm sure is not helping at all. So that's gonna be on our to-do list, is to remove these and clean them really, really well, because yeah, it doesn't look so good. But what is good is that it runs. It blows air, at least. Turn this off. It blows air, so that's a good plus. So I think the next thing to do is take that kind of out of it completely. And we can see with a multimeter, we'll have you set back here, or I'll turn this thing around, one of the two. And we'll start testing stuff to see if we're getting ohms resistance across the switches up front, and seeing which one. I guess this would technically be a power, I guess. I don't know. It controls power to the fan, so it's got to put a limit on how much power goes through it to how fast it spins. That's my assumption. The other thing is, this switch on the back is 2 open terminals, and it looks like they used to have terminals on them, so that's kind of worrisome because all of the plugs are accounted for and they're kind of bent in the way that they seem like they should go. So break out the multimeter and start probing around for some stuff.
1 hour later.
Yeah, things got out of hand pretty quick, and things, you know, spontaneously disassembled. In other words, it all exploded, and I just had to dig in. So I was trying to figure it out on my own, and I finally figured out, you know what, I'm just gonna Google it. And I went to the Samba, and somebody actually had a thread on this with instructions that were in German, and I was able to translate them to English. Really? You have to do that right now? Anyway, so I found the instruction manual on the Samba, so thank you so much for posting that. And it's an original instruction manual that somebody had just scanned in. It's got step-by-step, all the pictures, even got the wiring diagram, the original owner's instructions. This is actually fantastic. Things like you'll need to cut and mend to make it fit in your car, which is really handy. But what I was really after is, if I don't lose it, this, the wiring diagram. So it's actually really easy to follow, and so I set it all up the way that the diagram is, and I found out that our big thick brown wire, which I thought was a really solid ground going into our relay, is actually our main power feed. So the main thing I was running into is, like, I understand this is all supposed to work together, but there's no power coming into the system. There's plenty of grounds and there's no power coming in. So how am I going to power this thing up? And so I'd applied power directly to this. This is actually a resistor board. Those little spirals in there are different thicknesses and they actually glow, and that's part of why they have like this heating cooling chamber, as it forces the air across those to cool them as it's running. But those will actually heat up and provide a little bit of extra resistance. So I've got it all wired up now, and I've got our multimeter set up for ohms, which kind of looks like the omega sign, and we are going to look at it through the switch. I'm going to bring you guys in and show that as we flick the switch on the power towards the fan, which is, we're emulating the fan as the other side of the multimeter here, it'll actually show the different levels of resistance getting easier and easier the more and more power you give it, meaning there's less and less resistance, allowing more power to flow through the line, if that makes sense. So I'm going to clean up a little bit here. I'm going to bring you guys in. There's little nuts and bolts and screws everywhere, but I'm going to bring you guys in and show you how this works. What a mess.
A few moments later.
So I've got you guys here on the table a little bit closer, and hopefully you can see that. Last time I tried to do this, it didn't show up very well. How about that? Can you see that? I think you can. You can see the little one. So it means there's no connection. It's open. So when they touch, completing the circuit, it's 0. You should be able to see that. So one of our leads is going to go into our main power feed and that thick brown wire, and the other one's going to come to our fan output. So how much quote-unquote power would be traveling through it. Now this is in the ohm setting, meaning we're going to be measuring resistance across it. So hopefully you can. Alright, so you see there's no connection. Our fan is in the off position. We go to the first setting, we see we're starting to get readings. It's super low, so we're going to want to bump it down on our settings. Okay. So we bump it up one more. We're getting closer and closer. One more. Getting that higher resistance, and that's all the way to the top. Now it's kind of bouncing around a little bit. We do have a few jumpers in, but if I go back again, and off, you can see our resistance went lower and then came higher and higher. That's going to vary a little bit. So you're kind of jumping all over the place. That should be max, I think. I could have it the other way. No, that's right, off. There we go. So you can kind of see it gets lower and lower down to the hundreds. So we start off at no connection and off to I think like 800, and then it jumped down to 500 or 5 to 300, and then jump down from like the 100s. So 0 would be absolute full blast, but we do have these coil resistors built in. That's what those little coils are. They're little resistors. They will get glowing hot, so just be mindful of that. So what I think what we need to do now is just kind of clean. There's a lot of dust and bug guts still in this stuff, so I think it's a really good opportunity to clean this out. Let's all open. Then we will reassemble it, put the knobs back on, put the resistors back in place like they're supposed to, and then we will see if we can add power to it with the switches all in place and everything where it's supposed to be. Now there are supposed to be 2 relays here at the diagram. I'll put a link down in the description for this one in case you happen to come across this, but this will be down in the description. But there are 2 AC relays that power the entire thing. So B is actually to the relays, but I'm just going to put direct power to it. So this is part of the process. It's not going to be seen here, but I could go grab relays and set that up correctly, but we're just going to put power to it and see if the fan will alter speed here on the table. So this thing was really gross. There was dead bugs and spider webs and all sorts of dirt dauber nests, and the outside still needs to be cleaned up some, but for the most part the inside's all cleaned up and taken care of. There's one of these little fins that I found, but I just couldn't get it in there, and all reality, I mean, you can get your finger in there and voila, there you go. So I'm cool with that. It is now time to test it. I don't have the knob on it, I gotta fit that back on there, but I can still turn it. So what I'm gonna do is hop on the other side, we're gonna ground power to the circuit, I'm gonna turn it on, and we're gonna see if we get different levels of power here. So we'll off first, hook up our ground. So I have power directly to the thick brown wire on the back here, which I thought was a ground, but it's actually our main power in, which will be coming from relays in the future. Then our ground is actually just grounded to the negative side of the fan. It's really all we have to complete the circuit. So that's all the way off. We're gonna go to on. Okay, so we're gonna go to 1. Much quieter now that it's cleaned. So we can hear it get quieter and louder. Okay, so there's actually a switch underneath here. So that's on like low mode. So if you want to flip this switch, it'll go high. Supposedly. Maybe not. Did I not get loose? No? There it goes. Now that's some AC. Yeah, so The switch on the bottom works. I thought it was like an add-on. That's moving some air. See, the low version is not as exciting, but you go high. Yeah, so much better, and huge shout out to the manual being online, because that was a lifesaver. So we definitely need to clean the outside of this thing before we go and install it. I'm not going to install it anytime soon, but I'm just really glad we were able to get away from the heat a little bit and crack into something a little more electrical, a little more diagnosing and seeing what's going on, and being able to read a diagram is really, really helpful. So I think it's time to clean this stuff up, because it is an absolute disaster in here. What a mess. But it's all picked up now, and that's what matters. But we are good to go on this AC unit. Turns out, after doing some reading, that there's supposed to be some ducts that go from here around to this one here and here to the closer one. It's like something like a dryer tube, a dryer vent tube, like the silver ones, but black. And you could screw them in and feed them to the dash and all that to get all the way over there to cool the other side. So that's pretty cool. So we need to hunt those down. I'm just glad this thing worked out and turned out really well. Huge shout out to Pinemont Auto Salvage for having this listed and having all of those buses and parts and all sorts of good stuff that we picked up today. So make sure you guys check them out. Again, their information is down below in the description. They will ship some stuff to you, but that's that's up to them, between you and them. So huge shout out to them. I do also want to mention that we have our new merchandise website. I'll make sure to put that down below as well, but I'll also put it here on the screen for you guys. Our new merchandise shop is recently opened, and we had our 2,000 subscriber kind of live stream. We announced that along with some other things, the merchandise shop being one of the big highlights of the stream. So make sure you guys check that out. There's all sorts of different options. We're going to be having all sorts of new designs coming out as we progress in the projects. I know there's a few on deck ready to get launched, so guys, make sure you guys are checking out the site all the time for new updates, and make sure you guys are following me on Instagram and Facebook for all those behind the scenes pictures and all the cool stuff that we get to work on that don't always make it on the channel. So make sure you guys are doing that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing really, really helps the channel, so please make sure you do that. We are continually growing. That way we can work on stuff like this and bringing it to you for free here on YouTube. Thank you again, and until next time, we'll see you.